So. All right.
I'm here.
All right. So we're gonna take you guys through the forms again. And you have a buyer or do you have like for the listing?
Buyer's coming first.
First, okay. Destiny, do you have anything coming? Might just be listed details, so. Nothing yet, okay, all right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you through the 4 forms for the buyer side to get them, so that you can go show homes. And then I'm gonna go through the 4 or 5 forms for the listing. Okay, so if you have a listing appointment, you guys can get those filled out. There's more documents that come behind the listing, and of course with the, as the purchase agreement goes. Alrighty, so you feel free if you wanna log into your North Star.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and you can just follow along if you want to. Alright, so we're gonna go over to tools here. Wait, I didn't share my screen, I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm not on Zoom, that's why it did not work today.
Yes.
There we go. That helps. If I'm not doing this for a couple weeks, I forget all the steps. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right.
Recording in progress.
All right. So I'm going to stop my video. All right. All right. Okay. There we go. There. Now we're not echoing anymore. All right. So, okay, so we have Nan is on here and Destiny's on. I don't know if Diana's on yet or not. So we're gonna go ahead. So you're gonna go over to tools. And we're gonna be working in what we call the transaction desk. Some people will call this Insta forms also. And this is where all the documents are that we need for transactions. So one of the first things you're gonna want to do when you start with a client is down on the left-hand side, there's a contact card down here. As you click that card, and you come over to the far right here, and there's the add button in blue. You click on add, create contact, and then you can add your client in here. So when it says type, it might be buyer, it might be seller. And then you just need first name and last name and their email address. And here, all the other information can stay in command. Okay, this is just so that everything auto-populates into the forms for you. Okay, and then hit save on that. Then you would go to your house here. And then over on this side here is the plus sign on the right-hand side. Do you see this over here? You would click on the plus. And of course, they did some new and improved and old ones. So we're just gonna go with the old one till I get time to explore they're doing in the new one. So in here, this is where you would come in and you would put in your buyer's name. And in this case here, right now, today, I'm only signing my buyer. So the forms that I need are in the KWS Buyers Rep 2025. So I would click on that. It says buyer tenant. That's me because I'm the buyer's agent. And I'm using the wizard. And then you hit create. And let me know if I'm going too fast. All right, so what happens in this one here now is you don't need to fill in all this information. So we're just gonna hit next. And the system's just a tad bit slow today. I'm gonna hit next a couple of times if it's gonna move for me. There we go. And then on this one, page 3, it has my name and select. It does not, for some reason, it did not auto-populate my person, so I can go into existing contacts and then I can find my person. Let's see where it is, this one here. Because I have too many samples in here. And then I'm gonna hit save. So for instance, if you went and you signed with one buyer and then you found out that significant other is gonna sign and you didn't add them, you can go in and add them that way. And from this plus button, you can also create if you forget to go do it in your contact card. All right, and then we're gonna hit next again. These are the forms that you're gonna need. So the first one is always gonna be agency. There we go. Agency, the affiliated, the buyers, and the buyer's representation. I rearranged these so that those 4 go in order. Those are the orders that I also like to have them sign. That's just me. We have to do the exclusive one. You know the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive? Okay, yeah, guys, no. That we always want exclusive, so they only work with us. Non-exclusive means they can work with any realtor. So for the buyer's touring agreement, which I'm not going to use, and this one here on the 3 dots, you can click it and you can delete it because you don't need it.
What is the touring agreement?
The touring agreement means I just met you someplace and I want to see your property. And I don't want to sign a contract to work with you. So if I sign this touring agreement and agree to pay you a certain amount, you'll open up a door and show me a house. And if I choose to buy the house and I'm not representative, I can then sign the buyer's agreement with you. And sometimes buyers just want to do that. Otherwise, you were opening doors for free all the time. But now we're required to have a signed buyer's agreement. So if you don't have the contract signed, then you need to have a touring agreement signed. You just can't take people to show houses.
Right.
Now, if you take a significant other, you know, maybe a good friend, you know, siblings going with you while you take a look at houses, you know, that's fine. That type of thing, because you're maybe going out to check out the market. You're doing agent previews of homes. You know, you might want to take somebody with for safety. But if you're really working with someone, you gotta have one or the other side. So, and then so I delete those. And then you can go ahead and hit next. And then hit done. And then you go back to your little house. All right, it stayed here this time. All right. So down here, see where it says school forms. If you click on that, it's just gonna give you a longer list, which will be easier to work with. So the agency one is the one that you always have your client sign. It might be at an open house. Some might be pre-signed ahead of time. If you're talking about terms, motivation. So this one here just needs to be signed. There's nothing else to do with it except explain it to your client. So I always recommend hit save, just in case you do make a change on something. And then go file, go open again. Now we're gonna do the affiliate business arrangement. This is an arrangement one. If you read through it, it talks about the affiliate businesses that we work with here. So in this one here, I would always put my client's name on top. Because this is a KW form, it will not populate for you. The date. And then in this case here, it's gonna be a buyer. So we don't know what address they're gonna buy, so it's to be determined. So you can just leave that here, you can highlight it, circle it. If you want, you can just put TBD in here. If it was a listing, if you're listing somebody's home, you'd have an address in there. Because you know the address up front. So these are what our office has doing business with Keller Home Loans and Title Fusion. Then it has some of the fees that are involved. Your clients don't have to use them. It's you referring them out to Keller Home Loans to get approved if they haven't met with a lender yet. So that's one way. It's another way for them to sit down, take a look at what Keller Loans has to offer prior to maybe committing to a loan with another place. And then Title Fusion is a title company that we also have an investment in. And you're gonna need a title company. So chances are you will build relationships. Hopefully you'll be building this with Randy downstairs. And that he's really good. You want a good title company to work with. Because they do all the final say of all your paperwork. All right, so then down here, you would just print in their name. And then the date will show up when they sign it. And then file and save. And then go file, open. Buyer's disclosures and acceptance is the next form that you'd be filling out. So you'd be going through this with your buyer, acknowledging in the first one. The second one, you'd be discussing multiple offers. What if there are multiple offers on the table? You'd be discussing with your buyer what a property inspection is and have a list of inspectors so that they can choose who they want to work with. Home warranty plans are the same thing. You're going to want to discuss that with them. They have an option to ask the seller to buy them. They have an option to buy them themselves or decline it. And if they choose at the time that they're writing the offer not to do a home warranty plan, they still can get one at closing. So it's not off the table for them. Broker's commission, this is the BAC. Our office is $450. Okay, you're working with a buyer. If you choose to increase this, you can increase this. So you can just go over here and you can change this to 500. Because you want $50 for your time, gas, mileage. If you have a successful closing, the buyer will pay this $500 at closing. And when the MCAs issue your commission check, then you'll get your $50. If you don't have a successful closing, it's just money that you don't have. The money that the office doesn't. And then you see here, it auto-populated the names for you. Now remember this $500 because I'm going to talk about it in a minute. So we're going to do save. And then we're going to do open forms. And now we're going to go to the contract. Okay, so in the contract, always date your contract. So if my client is signed today, I would do it the 5th. If I knew I was meeting them tomorrow and I was just prepping it, I could go ahead and date it the 6th. So, but you do have to have a date on there. Have your client's name up on line 3. Keller Williams Select is the broker that you'd be doing business with. I'm gonna start my contract on the 5th, and I'm gonna end it. Now, just remember, you need days to find a property. You gotta write an offer, get it accepted, and then you're gonna need, give or take, 40 days to close the property. So you're probably gonna need at least 90 days out. You can always extend and amend your contract, but that's something you probably don't wanna do and have them sign again. So I just always throw my date out there. And you can go out as far as you want. You can go the end of the month, you can go from the 5th to May 5th. It's up to you. You just have to make sure that this contract is still active at closing. If it's not active at closing, you cannot get paid unless you amend it. All right. Then we go down here to lines 27. Here, we do not do a retainer fee. That's a 0. If you ever do come across a client that has to put funds up front before buying, then you would put that money in there. That money would come into the brokerage and then it would be held here until closing. If you don't close, it would go back to the buyer. So on line 30 is where you put your commission in. And it has been said that best practices put 3% in here. Okay, 3%, you're gonna negotiate this 3% on the seller's side to get them to pay you hopefully a 2.5, 2.7. Then you can determine whether or not the difference you're gonna have your buyer pay it or just waive it. I can't say what most people do. I mean, for me, it's like, you know what, it was 3%. They're willing to pay me 2.7. I'm gonna go ahead and waive this 0.3. It might make them a happier client. And then again, if you're off searching for properties for 6-7 months, writing several different contracts, you might want to be entitled to that 0.3. Okay. And then if you do put something in here, you can put 0 because it's saying the 3% of the selling price or the dollar amount, whichever is greater. So if this was $100,000 house and you wrote in 3,000 and they ended up buying a home for 125, then the 3% would kick in versus the 100,000. But normally we just, it's just simpler unless you want to make sure you get a flat fee. You can put 0 in and they'll pay you 3% of the property. Down on 34, somewhere in here, you do have to have between 0 and 180 days. This is when your contract ends. You have 72 hours to give your buyer a listing of everything that you've shown them or you put in front of them. So it's up to you, but you got to have something in there. So 180 is the max. Some people will put 30 days in. It just all depends on where our market is and how competitive it is. If they go out and they purchase that home that you showed. August 1st, they changed this little box here to just shall. We used to have to check shall or shall not. It is now shall. So that means if the seller pays anything towards the 3%, it will reduce that 3%. Down here, what kind of property are they looking to buy? Majority of us will be doing the residential personal one. That's what we specialize in. That's what we know the market the most of. Now you're down towards the farmlands. You might get to know more of the farmlands and you'd be checking those boxes. If you have somebody who's kind of like, oh, I might want something more recreational versus residential, you might check both of them, but then make sure you understand the recreational market. All right. 71 and 72. Normally, best practices is going to be 71. to check that box. That is saying you, as the broker, you're acting as the broker right now. And you're gonna make sure that all the forms, everything gets to a title company. Okay, 72 is if they know somebody or they're gonna use an attorney, then they would be setting up the closing. But I'm gonna say the majority of the time it will be you. And then they will initial once we set all that up. Now we're down to dual agency. Does everybody know what dual agency is? And you understand that dual agency only happens in our office. Okay, because we're independently operated and owned. So here, unlike some other companies, it might be all of them. I'm gonna pick on 489 Realty. I don't know if this is true or not, but every office in the Twin Cities could be connected, therefore they'd be in dual agency. You'll see like Remax has different names, so they are not like a dual. Okay, so on here you would discuss this with your client, and you would have them to agree or not to agree. So I'm gonna say that my client's gonna agree. Chances are, depending where you're doing your business, you may or may have someone in our office that has a listing for you. Real estate company is on here. When we go in to sign, your buyer will sign, you will sign, and it will be dated then. All right. Down here on other, this is where we should be putting that $500. So BAC, let's see, let's do a buyer will pay BAC, and this is why I told you, remember that 500 at closing? You can find your own wording to put in there if you want to put something different, if you want to say a successful closing, something like that, or maybe you're gonna word it a little bit differently, but this entails that you can go ahead and collect that 500 if that 3% isn't enough to cover it. Does that make sense? Okay. And then down here, did you guys all auto-populate with everything on here? So it's got the buyer's name. You do not need to worry about having their addresses on here. You can if you want. You have to put it in before you have them sign, otherwise you gotta handwrite it on. Room for a second buyer. If you are having like a trust or something, you have a lot of buyers, you can find ways to get them to sign everywhere on here. And then wire fraud has to be signed too. And just make sure when we set up a signature box that you always set that up to be signed. All right, any questions so far? All right, got that saved. Now we're gonna go back to open all forms.
Connie,
Go ahead.
yes, you hit save and then what was the next one?
Open.
Okay, thank you.
Where it says open forms there?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so now you're ready to have your buyer sign, and your buyer's gonna sign electronically. And you just click all 4 boxes, little circles, put it into your basket. And here is your pen. You see this pen right here? You click your pen, and it's gonna pull all these forms in. All right, so the one thing I do is I like to click this little button. You see it right here by the signers? I like to click this over. And it's a signing order. This box is in the way. And it did not bring my participants in. So I'm gonna go from the transaction. I'm gonna add John, I'm gonna add me. And John is my buyer. And I am considered a selling agent when you're a buyer. I know it sounds weird, but you are the selling agent for this part of it. It says that I'm gonna sign first. I want my client to sign. So you can just grab it and move them, or you can change the number in the boxes. I like my clients to sign and then I sign last. That's just what I like to do. Then if you click on docs, and this is not working because I set up all 4 docs for you guys. So they all fall in this order. But if you don't want them to sign in this order, you can just drag them wherever you'd like them to sign. Then we're gonna go down to the next box to tools. And as you can see, I'm in yellow. And my buyer's in blue. And so all I want to do is drag over the box for him to sign on here. The month and date comes in with it, right next to it. If you don't like it that close, just move it over. It's gonna auto date with that move because of the way the system's set up. And then I'm just gonna grab this bar here and I'm gonna go down to my next document. And as I'm going down, I'm previewing the names on there. I have the TBD. And because this is one of our forms, it's not going to, I'm gonna drag this name. I can leave the date here or I can move it over here. It's up to you. Go down here to the buyer's disclosure one. There's my 500. It did not give me my buyer's name and date, so I'm gonna do that one. I'm gonna change over to the yellow one to me because I need to sign also. And the date came on. Now I'm at the contract. I have it dated, their name, Kelvin, select the start and ending date. I have my commission stuff. I have my 180 days or whatever days you choose to put in there. I have my box checked for general nature property. I have the 71 checked there versus 72. Dual agencies taken care of. Now see, these are automatically lined up for us. Come down here, I have my BAC in here. It's put in for both of us to be signing. And then the wire fraud, you always have to sign one, so make sure you go back to your client. And then sign that one. Got the talking button in the way here. There we go. All right, so then after you preview it, I always just kind of go back up slowly. And I just make sure that all my boxes are checked. Once again, I make sure that I checked my boxes, filled in my commission. It's one way, so you don't have to go back and have your client's initial boxes over again. All right, then you hit next. And then I always customize mine. You know, can't spell today. Buyer's docs. And I always, please review. I always ask my people to review it. And if no changes, please sign. Now you add a little bit more of a note in here. For instance, I might say, let me know what you need changed or what you need more explanation on. And then on mine down here, this is the one coming to me. I just always just put in my client's name. And that, I don't need a note to me to know what it is, but that at least lets me know. You hit save. And then you hit send. And now they've been sent. Now you come over to the pen. And as you can see, 0 or 2 are not completed and then it's been sent. So if I go to my email here. Here, the right one. It comes into me. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it says start signing. And when you do this on the phone versus on a computer, it's just a tad bit different. I hit accept and I have to touch the buttons where it tells me to do the signing. And it's just gonna walk your buyer through everywhere to sign. And when you're done, you hit complete. And of course, everyone wants a survey. Now, if I go and I refresh this, come back to my pen, it shows that the buyer has completed the signing. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. Now it's come to me that he has signed. I need to sign my stuff. And you guys can do this by sending these forms to you yourself, back and forth, just so you can sign them. And I'm gonna hit next, and I sign there, I sign there. And I'm done. The next email I'm gonna get will give me all the forms. So either from, see, it just changed to 2 So I can go back to my house if I want to, or I can go to my email. I can do it through either one, but down here in the docs, you go to all docs in this bottom corner. Here are all my buyer forms that are signed, and I can just download these and upload them into Command.
How do you do that again?
Okay, go to your house.
Yep.
All right. And then there's this little bar right here.
Mhm.
Slide down, you see where it says documents right here? And then see where it says go to documents? You can scroll them this way too to see them, but this just opens it to a larger screen. And then right here in this little box folder, if I open that, there they are.
Okay.
Okay? And then they're right there, ready to be downloaded. Any questions on the buyer's docs online? No? Okay. All right, so now we'll go through the listing docs for you. So go back to your house. You go into the ad. First, I'm just gonna go the old way. I'm gonna put in I'm gonna use the same person. And the template this time I'm gonna choose is KWS Listings 2025. Okay, this other buyer one, this is when you're starting to write an offer, okay? So on this one here, you're gonna do that one. Right now, I don't have an MLS number, but if I had an MLS number from a previous listing, I could put that in there, but I have to make sure that I change out all the current to the current information. I don't have that. I'm the seller, and I'm gonna use the wizard. And it's kind of the same thing as we did with the buyer's docs. It's gonna come up here. Now on this one here, and this stuff, if you want, you can add some more information, but you don't need to. Everything's in Command for you. Just come through, click over here to your form, so it doesn't have my person in here again. So I'm gonna add from my existing contacts. And we're gonna take John Seller, I guess. We'll do that one. Oh. Oops, all right. So it has that here, and then next, and here are our forms. So on this one here, basically you're gonna need almost all these forms sometime during your transaction. You might not use all these amendments and stuff. You can leave them there if you want, or you can go and delete them if you want. It's up to you. So the first one, I'm not gonna open the first couple, but the agency, just like the buyers, you're gonna sign your seller's name. The affiliate arrangement, that's gonna be with the Keller Mortgage and the title company, so that will be the same. This is the seller's owner's disclosure. This one has a little bit more different saying than the buyer's one. Okay, this one here, they're gonna initial if they wanna have an open house. Okay, And if they don't want one at that time, you know, they say yes or they say no, but they can change their mind and you can hold an open house. So it's not in concrete. You're gonna talk to them about multiple offers. They're gonna decide how they wanna handle multiple offers and sign one of the lines. You're gonna discuss home warranty plans. Some plans, they can go ahead and put that on and pay for it when it closes and something happens to the home. The home warranty plan may or may not cover it. Brokers admit one, here again, here's the 450. This one, once again, can be changed, okay? You can increase it to 500. You could add your photos on there. You could add your staging on there. So like, for instance, on this one, we're just gonna go to 550 because I know, as an example, my photos are gonna be $100. So I can tell my sellers, our admit fee is 550, and as they go, well, what else on the 550 do we have to pay? Do we have to pay for pictures? You say, no, I have that covered. Okay, because you put it in here, but they don't know what the full BAC is. So they think that you're gonna cover it versus somebody else saying, oh, you know, they're gonna charge me separate. And then over here, just have your client's name in there. Go up to file, go down and save, then go back over and open forms. Unless it opens for me. There we go. Okay, we're gonna work with the listing contract exclusive right to sell. So if I would have did some, well, this one wouldn't auto populate as much. So always, once again, have your date on here. Have your property, we're gonna use the office property. In here, Minnesota. Now, if you would have had a previous MLS, you would go ahead and it would give you the legal description. Otherwise, just go look it up on the tax record or a previous listing, copy and paste it in there. But you do have to have it on here. Line 8, Keller Williams Select, the date the contract starts on. Now remember, you could be starting on the 5th, okay? And you have to have enough days to get to closing because you want to have an active contract. In this one, line 13, you're with your client today and you tell them, we can list your house for 350. And they might say, oh, no, I want 375. But we're gonna do a withheld, and I'll get to the withheld in a minute. So you might not go in the market, say, for another 30 days. Our market changes every single day. And with the comps. This is just a base price to get you started. You can do a change sheet when you get ready to go active. And we can change the price before the general public or any other agent sees the price. Okay, but you do have to have a number in here. You just can't leave it as to be determined. You can't leave it as blank anything. It has to have a specific number. So if they're set on the 375, say, okay, we'll do the 375 and we'll see where the market goes by the time we're ready to get on. Okay, so you can change that to make them happy. The terms here can be if you FHA, VA, conventional, all offers will be submitted. If you're not sure, like I didn't put cash on there. What if somebody came with a cash offer and I didn't have all offers were submitted, will be submitted? That covers you. Because this is what the seller is willing to accept to sell the home. All right. Go down, down here now, you're going to answer these questions here that you're answering are going to actually show up again on the input sheet. Normally you want to, yes, you want to list it on the internet. Yes, you want the house number on the internet. This is an automated valuation. Some people say yes, some people say no. Okay. The next one, I think a lot of best practices have been to check no. You do not want people to go out and try to make comments about the property online, because you cannot erase that. Once it's there, you can go in there and answer them, but it could maybe not help your listing. So that one, you may want to always consider no. Okay. Is the house, the property, is it on a lease? It probably most likely is not, okay? If it is, you have to say who's holding the lease. Okay, and if not, is your seller may or may not. You normally will not want your seller to list the property on the market, because if it's listed as a lease on the market, the new buyer has to wait until the lease expires before actually moving into the property. They can't just go and say, I own it, goodbye. You remember that from class?
Yep.
Okay, all right. All right, and then as we go down here. All right, so this is where your compensation comes in. Okay? Once again, we don't do retainer fees unless there's a situation at hand where they're gonna be struggling to pay you at the end of it. Line 119, seller shall pay broker as total broker's compensation. You are the broker here being paid. What is your fee? Most of us put in about a 3.3%. This is your fee, the listing fee. This has nothing to do with what a buyer would be paid. Okay? And then once again, you can do this which or greater, you can put a flat fee in that spot. Okay, do you guys have that online? Any situation where seller only wants certain buyers, examples. Yeah, if they just want to have a conventional, someone having a conventional loan, yes, you can fill that in. All right. All right, these next lines here, and we kind of wish they would take these out in a way. These are for the buyer. And our lawsuit that we had back now, about not quite a year and a half, is the buyer's agent needs to negotiate their rate. And the best practice that we have found out is on the PA on line 406 is for the buyer to write that amount in there. And let the seller and you negotiate if you're going to go ahead and cover that amount. You know, a seller might only be willing to pay, say, 2.5 and they put 3. You can negotiate it. If you put the buyer's broker compensation in here, that means the seller already agreed to pay that. And if they write it on line 406 and the seller signs that, who's going to pay them this one and that one? That'll probably come out of your side. So the best practice on here is to leave this just blank. I'll show you how to redline it out. Or you can just put them in here and you can just put zeros. Okay? And that. But it looks a little nice when you're sitting there in front of your client and you just say, you know what, we're not going to worry about this because they're going to write it on line 406 and we're going to negotiate it. Okay? Because if they ask for closing costs, buyer be agent to be paid. If they lower the price significantly, that keeps taking the money down from the sellers, but they want a net. Okay. And then down here, seller agrees to pay buyer's broker compensation. Once again, this is just zeros, you know. All right, so we're just gonna big red X that out. I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes. On line 146, once again, you can put up to 180 days. Once the contract expires, you have 72 hours to give them everyone who came and seen the property. All right. Down here, 172 to 174. Best practices will probably be you sending everything off to a title company. Unless again, if they know someone in the title business or they're sending it to an attorney. All right, seller represents that the seller is or is not foreign. Just check whichever box is appropriate. And here is the dual agency again. We're gonna check that, oops, that they're gonna work with someone in our office if we have a buyer. And go down, and also take time to read out all this stuff here. Okay, and because of the way the seller disclosure is written, it covers the BAC. So in here, you don't have to add that on here, but you can if you like. And then right here, it didn't, for some reason, populated his name. You have that on here. And then you have the wire fraud. All right, is there any questions with the listing agreement, with the commission? All right, so then we're gonna go back to open. So these are the ones that you need to get going. Now, I had talked about the withhold. And we're gonna go through this one here. If you came out to see me today and I was not ready to go on the open market and be active within 2 business days, it doesn't mean the weekends, 2 business days, Monday through Friday. You need to have a withheld filled out, and then that withheld will put your listing into the MLS within those 2 days, but nobody but you and the front desk will see that listing. No other agent will see anything about it. Okay, so it's good best practice. Go ahead and fill this out. Just fill out your address here. It's got, well, has listed for sale. That's me, because I'm the agent. And then on here, I just come in. And I think I had what, May 30th, April 30th, I think, put the name on here. If not, and it's a single family. And then you're gonna have it signed by them and signed by you. Okay, the 3831 down here, this is our office number. It should auto-populate for you, but if it doesn't, that's what it is. The agent ID, this is your MLS number. Okay. And this needs to come to the front desk within 2 business days to be entered into the MLS while you're working on either getting some more information from your clients. Maybe your client is, needs to get the house fixed up a little bit more. Maybe they haven't finished packing stuff, setting stuff aside. And, maybe it's gonna be 3 months. But you wanna sign them today so you can continue to work with them to get them on the market versus having another agent step in and they sign with them. This keeps that from happening. Does that make sense? All righty. Let's see here, we'll go file. I don't know if I did my save. And then we're gonna go back to open forms. We're gonna go down here to the estimate of proceeds. This one here is where you would put their name on here, the property address, which is, there we go. On here, you're gonna want to list out at least 3 prices. You might have your 375 in the middle, you might have a worst case scenario and a multiple offer. Okay. This form here, you want to present at the beginning when you're talking to your clients. You're going to fill out as many of these boxes as you can. Okay. In talking with our broker, Alexis, she said on line 10, the buyer's closing costs, list in the 2.7 there. Okay. Don't worry about them asking for closing costs. At least give them a scenario that if they were to ask for 2.7, this would be taken from their net proceeds. Okay. And then down in here, you might not know all these, but this is an estimate, okay? the brokerage fee on page, 21 is your fee plus the 450, whatever the BAC is. All right. And as we go through this, in the bottom here, this tells you what each line is. Okay, so don't feel lost. When you get down here at the bottom, these lines will add everything up for you. And it will tell you how much cash is going to the seller as a plus or a negative. All right. And this goes in on, after it's signed, this will also go into your command. And then you will do it again, but with the offer that your client has accepted, you're going to the closing table with. All right, so we're just gonna save that one. And now we're gonna go to open. Come on. All right. This is the input sheet. Have you seen the input sheet?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. So the most important thing about this one here is the top sheet before it can go with a withheld or withhold, however the MLS wants to with that, or go active. A seller needs to sign this and you need to sign the top sheet. That is giving the right to put that property onto the MLS. The other 12, 15 sheets behind it is your homework assignment that you work on to get all the detail for the house, for the property onto the market. There we go. So this one here, single family, right in here, lines 1 and 2. This is where they're giving us line 1 to put it on the MLS. That's why they need to sign this form. Now, a lot of people believe that all the information on the back side of this, they should also sign for. So then in here, you would just put your date that your contract is starting, the date that it's ending. The owner will sign, print their name, owner sign, print name, and then you with your name as printed on you, you'd sign over here. Or delete your name. This is all your homework to do. So if you go in and you have it in a withheld, you can go ahead and put your number in here if you want. This tells us what you like. It's appreciated if you do check the box. All the black boxes are required to be filled out to get into the MLS. So if I was to have an address, an exact address, some of these boxes will go ahead and auto-populate here for you, but just double check them to make sure that they are, directions will never populate, but legal description will. Your taxes will also populate, but you're also responsible to look up and make sure that you are in the correct year, that it is homesteaded, what is the amount. Normally, you might see it, assessment pending, or the seller might know about it, the assessment balance, and then the final total, if these two have to be added together, or this amount just needs to be carried over. So always double check that. Directions are very simple. Just, north on Galaxy, take a left on Fairview. House is on the right. You don't have to be detailed to the point. Okay? And you can, by the way, when you do get into this online, you can type all this in. So you don't have to sit and handwrite it in either. And it will tell you how many characters you have available. Down here, you'd have your list price. Your information would be on here, autofill. And then you talk about if it's a lockbox. Once again, this is a clear box. So it's not required, but you can fill it in. Normally they're all exclusive unless you're doing a new construction. And that, if you want to share any existing finance, assume loans, terms, this is where these ones would be filled in for potential sale, owner. Most everything we have is yearly. These ones you don't have to worry about. This one here is normally no, unless you have fractional ownership. And don't worry, I don't think we have any auctions that much. Got some new construction ones. And then remember those 4 questions I told you? Yes, yes, no on the listing contract. That's where these answers are. Oops, I checked them wrong. There we go. Okay. So those are required. If you have an association, this box here becomes required. So the minute you put anything in this area, it could possibly trigger something to become required somewhere else. There are a few associations around here that may charge $100 per month, and that's to pick up the trash and maintain mailboxes. It's not really a true association, but you put it on here, and then to get past the docs, we'd have you put a note in there. All right, and then in here, you put in number of bedrooms and baths. If there are none, put 0 in here, please. We follow your directions from these sheets when you're filling them out. And if you don't put a 0 on it, and down in the basement, back in the corner, you didn't see it behind some boxes, there's a toilet. That's a quarter of the bathroom or a sink. And it happens a lot in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. We're seeing it in some of the older suburbs where somebody decided to put a toilet down in the basement to have a second one. And sometimes they hook these up illegally. So, if you're filling this out online, you can just click on here and it'll give you a list of what's available for choices. So sometimes you might not have something that you're, like a hallway is not on here. So you wouldn't be putting the dimensions of the hallway. Then you have your levels and your approximate to put on here. And this is very important because this really helps you with comps. It also helps you with appraisals. And then you just keep going through and just everything. You know, you have to know the foundation side, below finished, main floor total, below ground, you know. And that we should have something, again, hopefully in the future on measurements. But we highly recommend that you do measure, don't copy from a previous listing. Okay. You can find where is it on here? The lot dimensions you might find on the tax records. And those are accurate. And you just keep filling it out. And then when you get down here to these ones here that are clear, these all help with your comps. It also helps you sell the house by telling a potential buyer about the house. So if you know about the information, I would say fill it out. Just check the boxes down. When you get down here, ways, if you say it's on waterfront, because I'm standing here today and I can see a lake over there, unless it's really truly waterfront or something like that, I wouldn't check a box because they might want you to name the lake. And you do have to go in and find the lake. Sometimes you have to go to the DNR and find it too. It becomes required then, the depth of the lake, all that. Green buildings, we've not seen too much of this around because it's been fairly new. And then down here is your optional, if you have any type of a townhome association type of thing, these become required if you fill out the townhome stuff at the beginning with the HOA. So they're going to want to know information about that. And then down in here is where you can put in the remarks for the agent. And below that is for the public. It's going to go down there. Yep. There's public remarks, and then if you want to put financial remarks. So in here you can type, there's so many characters you can use. We do a copy and paste on those. So a lot of times do not put anything in there about compensation. Okay, nothing in the MLS about compensation. If you want to tell me that your seller's willing to pay compensation, email me outside of the MLS. Okay, and that in your public remarks, you want to do whatever you can to get a buyer interested in it. Sometimes maybe in the agent remarks, you might put looking for a quick closing. Freezer is not included in the sale, something like that. And then financial remarks are not used as much anymore. But sometimes if you have maybe an expensive house, you know, luxury house, you might put pre-approved buyers only. Okay, so that's it. And then I'm not gonna go through because we're after 12 right now. But you would do the same thing that we did. Let's see, I'm not even gonna worry about saving that one. By clicking the boxes, we're just gonna click a couple of them here. Go to your basket, go to your pen. Are you guys all okay on that? And understand that? All right. And then just email them up, have them sign them. And that, but just remember, when you have a listing contract signed, it's 2 business days that it has to be entered into the MLS. So best practice, take that withheld with you form filled out. And if you need it, they sign it. I'm sorry, we lost the screen there. So, all right, questions, guys?
Connie, I have a quick one.
Yeah.
For those that do not want to do DocuSign, they want to do it manually.
Okay. Yeah, if they,
Yeah. At the beginning, do you do the same? Well, what do you do?
what do you do? Okay. So right here is a print button up here,
Uh-huh.
and you can just print all the forms out.
Okay.
You can fill them out electronically, and then you can print what you need to have signed.
Okay.
Okay, print one-sided, because if you print two-sided, then you gotta make sure you scan two-sided to get it up into Command. And it
Yeah.
gets messy if you mess up your pages.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, so you can always print these out. Now, if you want to print them out and handwrite them out, you can.
I'd rather print.
You'd rather print them out?
Print and then let them sign.
Right, right.
Mm.
But I mean, yeah, but some of the information, would you want to fill out electronically and then print it?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Uh-huh.
Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this is we have to read your printing or your handwriting when we're doing.
Yes.
And we
Okay,
don't-
I'm not saying me manually fill it
Right.
out. I'm saying type it all up and then just let them sign it. Okay.
Then, yep, and then make them a copy or email them a copy.
Yes.
They
Okay.
sign however they want it, but they do not have to sign electronically. And
Okay.
if you have everything filled out in front of you and you have your computer sitting with you and they can get into their email, you can have them sign in front of you too.
Okay.
You know, if you want to do that also. The nice thing about doing this is it kind of date stamps it when they sign it.
Right.
It gives you the correct dates.
Mhm.
All righty.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody else? Okay. All right, that's it. I think we'll probably do forms class again, probably in about a month, but if you have questions, you know where I am. And we'll sit down and work with you, okay? All right.
Thank
That's it.
you.
Thank you. Have a good day, you guys.
Okay.
Bye, Destiny.